Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Jimmy Dore Show. I have our special guest, friend of the show, author of What's the Matter with Kansas and Listen Liberal, which needed an exclamation point at the end. It's Thomas Frank is with us. Hi, Thomas.
Hey, Jimmy. How are you?
Oh, it's great to have you back. Thanks for being on the show. So let me ask you, Thomas.
Can I just show you something, Jimmy?
Yeah.
So this is, here, I'll turn the light on here so you can see it. So I decided, I didn't get around to doing this because, of course, my review was only 800 words.
Okay.
But I was going to compare her book about it to William Jennings Bryan's book about the 1896 campaign after he lost. Okay, the first battle. You can see my sticky notes in it, and of course I didn't have any space to do that in. But there's a fascinating difference between these two. So Bryan is both, by the way, Hillary claims repeatedly in the book that she's a very humble person, that she doesn't like to talk about herself. This is on memoir number 3. You understand? It's actually 4 if you count It Takes a Village as a memoir, you know. A big part of it is. But it's like she's always like, I don't like to talk about myself. So the book starts, if you skip the first 2 chapters, which are all about her therapeutic regime after her defeat. And you feel really sorry for her. It's really terrible. And then she starts at the beginning. Why did I want to be president? And she says, I wanted to be president because I thought I'd be good at the job. And then a little while later, she says, because I thought I wanted to be president because I'm paraphrasing here. This is not a direct quote. She wants to run for president because it's a chance to, or she wants to be president because it's a chance to do the most good that she will ever get to do in her life. And she says this a number of times in the book, this thing about doing good. And there's a weird thing about Hillary Clinton. A very smart person, very well-intentioned person. I don't think she understands that the phrase do-gooder is pejorative in the English language. I think she knows that. I think she thinks it's like, this is what we call people that we really admire or something. I don't know. It's really weird. Anyhow, so after saying this is why she wants to run for president. It's a chance to do the most good that she could ever have. She says, so then, I'm going to run for president. So I call up all of these policy gurus and I ask them, what are the problems and how should I go about solving them? So basically she decides she's going to run for president and then she calls up a bunch of experts and like, give me some issues. And, it's exactly the opposite of the way it usually works. Usually it's the opposite. The issues come first and then the candidate comes second. The candidate, he's supposed to be, he or she is supposed to be a servant of the issues or the whatever people that he's supposed to be serving, like William Jennings Bryan. So Bryan is obviously a man with a towering ego, but he doesn't write it that way in his book. No, it's all about the cause. The cause being, of course, free silver, and behind that, the status of the working people of America. But he's utterly, selflessly dedicated to this cause, and it's fascinating to me that it's the exact reverse with Hillary, that she comes first and the causes come second. And in fact, this is a theme in the book is she makes up she likes to talk in lists, these long lists of policies that she is in favor of and problems that need to be solved. And I guess she finds this like a really convincing and persuasive way to talk. But believe me, it is exactly the opposite of that. It's like a way to bury, an issue so that nobody ever notices it. And it's completely technocratic and passionless. It's the opposite of Bryan in a lot of ways.
Boy, that's a nice observation that she ran her campaign the opposite. She didn't have a burning passion. She didn't have a vision.
Right. In fact, at one point she criticizes Bernie. I thought this was very telling. She says he was outraged about everything, and it's like, yeah. He was, and you know why? Because things were outrageous. Yeah. And so at some point in the book, and this is when she's putting Bernie down and she just throws this off and walks away. And at some point, much later on in the book, and she's going down to defeat. And I guess they started to realize that she was in trouble towards the end. And she's like, maybe I should have been out. I forget exactly. It's in my Guardian review. I quoted her, but maybe I should have had some outrage. Maybe I should have had some passion. And of course, by that time, it's way too late.
Wow.
Everything. It's the one way of putting. I wanted to call the story this, but of course, newspapers call your story whatever they want. But I wanted to call it the Twilight of the Technocrats. because this is the technocratic idea, given every advantage that you can have. She outspent Trump 2-1, by the way. All of these complaints that Democrats make about the fundraising system, she wailed on Trump in fundraising. She had the endorsements of nearly every newspaper in this country. Trump had, I think, 2 newspapers or something.
Right.
One of them was the Topeka newspaper, by the way. Anyhow, she had every possible advantage going into this thing. This candidate keeps blowing his own toes off, one after another, making these incredible mistakes. And the technocratic style can't bring it home. The technocratic approach to politics, where it's all this, passionless reciting of issues and promises to this group and that, and I have the best resume of all the candidates, and Hillary was, the resume candidate, as Barack Obama famously said, the most qualified candidate ever to run for the presidency, and this approach completely fails. I mean, she's got these pollsters, the micro-targeting, she's got the big data, she's got Eric Schmidt, for Pete's sake.
From Google, right?
From Google, yeah. And he's in the book, by the way, and he's still in her book regarded as heroic. This is before the latest news came out. And she's got all these people. She keeps going to Sheryl Sandberg, an officer at Facebook. And she's got you didn't go to the Democratic convention, but you saw it on TV.
Yes, I did. I was at the DNC, Thomas, and what I did see was that they didn't let Nina Turner speak, but they did let a billionaire who instituted the fascist stop and search in New York City.
Bloomberg. Yeah.
He was welcomed on stage, but not Nina Turner. You know who else was welcomed was Leon Panetta, who famously giggled over how many shooting wars that we're in when he was asked by Scott Pelley on 60 Minutes, hey, how many shooting wars are we currently in? And he started laughing, and he goes, I have to stop and think about it like it's a big joke. So when the anti-war wing of the Democratic Party started to protest him, the DNC thought it was smart to turn off the lights on them and have sound cannons pan. So
you remember that.
I was there.
Do you remember the Marine Corps general who gave a speech at the convention? Do you remember this? And it was a very not bloodthirsty, but it was like the speech by General Patton, that starts that movie. It was in that tone, in that vein. And where people gasped. There was an audible gasp in the auditorium when this guy started talking that way. But she had every advantage that you can have in American politics and blew it. And that's extraordinary.
So do you think that's why she's doing this, Thomas? Do you think that's why she's doing this book tour? Because she just can't take the humiliation of losing to Donald Trump when she had every newspaper, maybe bar two, endorsing her. She had every Democrat in the country endorsing her. She had every corporate. She had even neocons. She had Republicans endorsing her, and she still lost to Donald Trump. And so this is humiliating. And she lost the first time to a black guy with a Muslim name, and now she loses to a reality star. And that's it. And that she's really exposed. What I've been telling people is that if you don't know what a narcissistic personality disorder looks like, watch Hillary Clinton's interviews.
Okay, I've not thought of that.
Hey, everybody, we have 2 live Jimmy Dore shows in September. September 25th, we're in San Diego, and September 18th in Burbank, California. Get your tickets right there. There's a link right there.